Hello and welcome back to the Championship Lowdown podcast. This is our week 2 and we'll be doing another transfer roundup, but this time of the transfers that happened just during this week. So unlike last week, we can't anger any Birmingham fans, but just in case you thought we were being biased or whatever, we've brought one on this week. So I'm joined with Elliott, a Birmingham fan this week. Are you okay, Elliott?
Yeah, not too bad. I thought needed somebody to balance the scales, as it were. I'm not quite as bullish on our chances this year as seemingly all the people in your comments were. But I think we'll do pretty well. It's just, I'm tentatively excited, but that has so often been a bad thing to be as a Birmingham fan. So.
Which is just if anyone's angry at whatever we said last week. I know some people were a bit confused about Chris's comment, but if you want to take that with Chris, feel free. It wasn't me. I was also confused by the Mark Lerner comment, but we'll move on. No angry Birmingham fans this week, however, because Birmingham, Blackburn and Bristol City would be our first 3 teams normally going in alphabetical order, but no, they haven't signed anyone or sold. I think Birmingham might have sold Longjello this week to Motherwell.
Yeah, he's fine. He if we signed him as a left back, people thought he was a winger. He's kind of neither. He'll do well in Scotland. He's showed flashes of being good, occasionally, and then other times he looks like he's never seen a football before. So he'll do fine in Scotland.
So yeah, you can't get angry at that, Birmingham fans. That is coming from a Birmingham fan. So I'm not saying a word on that because otherwise,
most of them will think he's worse than that. I imagine. So
yeah, probably.
I'm one of his biggest fans.
Seeming to be a bit. But there we go. We can't anger anyone this week because they haven't signed anyone, so we can't go on any of the signings. Same as with Blackburn and Bristol City. Absolutely no one. So we'll start officially with Charlton Athletic as the first team of the episode. Yeah. And they have made 2 signings this week, which on this list of teams is actually quite a lot. One is Rob Apter from Blackpool. I believe that happened either today or yesterday, quite recently. And Reece Burke from Luton was, I believe, the day after we finished filming the last episode. So Apter was sort of highly rated when he went to League 2 to Tranmere. Had that little loan spell where he won League 2 Young Player of the Season, I believe. And then he's been half decent as well in League 1, good stats, and it looks overall to be a good signing for Charlton, Elliott.
He's still nice and young. He carries the ball well, which is, it's always fun to watch a young player who wants to carry the ball. It's just difficult to then go a level up and carry on beating people when Championship defenders are quicker, stronger, and better. I watched a lot of League 1 football last year as a Blues fan, and the standard is completely different. We were rarely challenged. I mean, I watched Apter play last year. I don't remember him standing out, but then you look at him and it's okay, he looked decent in League 1. It's I know what level that is, and I'm not super excited by him, but he's still young and he's nice to watch. So that's a benefit.
I mean, they've been with Reece Burke as well. They've done a lot of. I don't know what you call it. I think it's just a bit of bulking up the squad with some experience. The Apters, the younger side of things, but Reece Burke coming in from Luton, it's an experienced defender again, not one that's going to get you off your seats, but it's just one of them signings that sort of bridges the gap. You think just to basically have that squad ready to compete at what will probably be the lower end of the table next season.
That's one of those signings that goes completely under the radar, but actually, if you're going to stay up, it's probably quite an important one to make. Even if he's not going to be first choice, I'm not 100% sure, but even if he's your third choice, having a player who has played at this level plenty of times and you can rely on when things get sticky in December and you're playing hundreds of games, it's just a good player to have at the club as somebody who just got promoted.
Absolutely. So again, a pattern with some of these teams is we won't talk about them because they haven't done anything, bar maybe a few sort of unnoticeable outgoings. But as far as I'm aware, Coventry have done nothing this week. So we will skip over them and we'll go to Derby, who've only done 1 signing this week, but it was a pretty, for them, exciting one, what they feel like. Patrick Aguiman from Charlotte FC.
You're not so keen on this one from what you told me.
No, I mean, the fee was rumoured to be, I saw Tom Bogut said it was around $8 million, $10 million, and to me that is absolutely insane. I watch a lot of MLS.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of MLS, and I get the highlight reel part of it. He looks good because obviously you'll have the clips where he holds people up and then just starts bodying people off or smashing the ball in. But To me, I think he's going to get misprofiled as a target man because of his height and size. He is massive, but he isn't a target man, really. He really struggles, I think, in them sort of positions. His hold-up play isn't brilliant. Like, it can be better. He's still really raw. He's not even been in the league for too long. And obviously MLS is a whole different ball game to come into the Championship, as we've seen with a few other strikers like Daryl Dike, who struggled more through injury. And then Duncan Maguire was supposed to join Blackburn, but that fell through. But I just think, I don't know how much you know about Aguiman, but for me, it's just one of them ones. I think if it was a couple of £1 million to be an option in your team, I'd understand it. $8 to $10 million, I don't understand it at all, personally.
Yeah, what I wrote down is it just seems like a lot of money for a guy who's like, when you look at his numbers, they don't pop off the page. It's like, I know numbers aren't everything, but when it's a guy, I haven't watched him that much. You've watched him a lot more, and you don't even think he passes the eye test either. So, yeah, I looked at the numbers. I was like, okay, it's like he's like fine. I watched some of his highlights. I watched some of his footage. I'm like, okay, I can see why a scout would watch him and love him. Like he reminded me of if you remember Victor Anichebe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he would just once a game he would just pin a defender, roll them, and take a shot. And you're like, you watch him do that, you're like, he's unstoppable. But he didn't do it often enough.
Yeah.
And that's kind of maybe where we're at with Aguiman. But then he's not that old either. I think he's like 24, 25. So
he's
like
very young, yeah.
Yeah, the big strikers tend to peak a little later. So I'll give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. It's a lot of money for a team like Derby. Like, you've got to be sure when you're spending that amount of money when you're not like rich team.
Yeah, no, I agree. As I said, I don't see the $10 million vision with Aguiman. I think he's a good player. He's a serviceable player in MLS. I don't know what that translates to level-wise in England. I'd say he probably is a lower-end Championship, higher-end League One footballer. As it stands, I said, he is young, he can develop, and if he does end up being brilliant, then great for Derby. But as of what I have seen of him so far, I personally wouldn't have sanctioned a deal to sign him for that amount of money, because that has to be your star guy. That's going to be the guy that drags you. As much as John Eustace is exciting, that is a team that's going to be battling down the lower end of the table this season. So you've got to be careful with stuff like that. So for me, it's a lot of money. So fingers crossed for Derby fans, at least, that he's better than what he's been like in the MLS, because I'm not entirely convinced with that one. But
yeah, I worry he won't be able to throw Championship defenders around the way he can throw MLS defenders around. Championship defenders are big. Yeah, big guys generally. Like, there's a lot of 6'4", 6'5" defenders who are not going to just be pushed around the way, like, I've seen him push MLS defenders around.
You're not going to throw Harry Suter around the place, are you?
No, you're most certain. I'm certain.
Hull, another team we can't talk about because they haven't signed or sold anyone, I don't believe. Obviously, they've had the whole embargo troubles. I also saw today that they had a deal for Ollie McBurney, but it got refused because of the wage demands being too high with the considerations of their embargo. So Hull, nothing for this week. But Ipswich, on the other hand, have signed, I believe, is the most expensive player so far this window. And I really hope I don't butcher this name, but Azor Matthew Seward from Stade Rennais for what was apparently around £11 million.
Yeah.
Obviously, he signed for Rennais 15 million, I believe, the season before. And it looks like he had a good season, but obviously it can't have been amazing if they were ready to let him go. But obviously Ipswich could have had that pull power as well to pull him away from a club that is probably at a similar sort of level, you'd have to imagine.
So with Rennes, they what happened with Rennais is they had a guy who, like, their director of football, basically went on a spree and signed all these players last season, and then they sacked the manager, got a new one in. He didn't like basically any of them, and now they're trying to get rid of him. It's why Furuhashi ended at
I did think there was something weird.
Jordan James as well.
Yeah. But, I mean, on paper, he looks like a really good footballer. Obviously, you don't get thrown around for that sort of money for no reason. And he's had
he looked very comfortable on the ball and very two-footed as well from the tape I watched. But
it's what you want for.
He looks like a nice footballer. Yeah, he looks like a lovely footballer.
So I think, if you're spending £11 million on the Championship, it's going to be an exciting footballer. He's going to be most likely too good to play in this league.
Yeah, well, they're supposedly selling Amari Hutchinson, aren't they? So they got cash in the bank.
Yeah.
A lot of money to spend.
Speaking of signing players from France, they've also signed Cedric Kipre on loan from Reims. Obviously, we'll know Cedric Kipre from his time at West Brom and Cardiff. So he's been around in obviously all the other clubs he played for in the EFL as well, but they were the ones that sort of stood out to me as the most recent ones. So, it's a serviceable Championship defender and you're only paying a loan fee. So if worst case scenario doesn't end up going the way you want it to, there's no repercussions with that sort of signing.
Yeah, it seems like a depth option more than a starter, I would suspect. Maybe I'm misreading it. I don't remember him being he was pretty good at West Brom, but he wasn't like Ipswich. You would imagine should be challenging for top 2, if not top 1. Cedric Kipre doesn't scream like starting centre back for a team like that, but maybe I'm misremembering quite how good he was at West Brom and Cardiff.
He was again, as you said, he was good. He wasn't setting the world alight. I think obviously for Cardiff they were lower down the table, so for them he probably stood out to be better than when he was at Brom, when there was better competition around him. But it's a good sign. You're just bulking up that squad ready for a year because you don't know who they're going to lose. Obviously, we've seen Amari Hutchinson's been the big story around Ipswich as well this week, linked with a big £35 million raise to Brentford, I believe. I'm assuming they're waiting for Mbermo to leave before they go out and fork out that sort of money for him. So, be a big loss, but you'd imagine they'll probably replace him with that amount of money coming in for him.
Yeah, they'll sign somebody somebody exciting to watch. Like having that much money to spend and needing a forward player as a fan is always really exciting. I think you could sign anyone with that amount. It almost feels like you could sign anyone. It's like really exciting especially times.
Parachute payments as well. It's going to be an interesting one. We'll move on to Leicester, which is not a signing, but obviously they have had a big change in the week, and it was Marty Cifuentes has finally completed his deal to become manager of the club. Obviously, it was at QPR last season before it put on gardening leave towards the back
something
end
like
of the season.
Yeah, it was something
and
strange.
Then the weird part for me was the whole compensation situation, because obviously the whole gardening leave thing, but QPR actually got their new manager in Julian Stefan before he'd gone to Leicester, so it was a bit of a weird one. But
manager deals are often very strange like that. Like everyone knows they're going, so you've got to sign somebody else, and then they use all these sort of euphemisms like gardening leave. Everyone knows what it means.
You've been sacked, but they can't afford to sack you.
Yeah, basically,
it is the bottom line. But yeah, I just think he was good. Again, obviously, it's a small sample size, isn't it? He obviously dragged them up the table quite well. They looked really good, but then there was points where they struggled again. I'm not entirely sure from the Leicester angle if I understand it as much as if he'd gone to a similar sort of club as to QPR in the league. But at the end of the day, if I say they believe, but obviously, we've seen recent managers with Leicester, it hasn't exactly gone to plan, especially with Van Nistelrooy. I think that was a bit of a failed experiment.
And Leicester are a tough sell at the moment, given they're almost certain to get a points deduction. So
yeah, there is that to play into factor as well.
does make things more difficult.
If they're starting on -12, I can't imagine too many managers would be keen on that with horrendous financial problems to go along with it. But Cifuentes is the one who's bit the bullet, so we'll see how he does for Leicester. You'd imagine they'll still be up there, even if they did have a fairly substantial points deduction, because they'll have a squad that will be able to win games at this level.
Yeah, you imagine playoffs is well within their reach. But then it does depend if they have to sell players and
of course,
other stuff happens, other punishments happen. You just don't know. I mean, there's rumours of a second points deduction, I think, as well. So
it's interesting with them because, as I said, you don't know because they came down the other year and everyone said they were financially screwed and they didn't sell anyone and they won the league comfortably. So you just don't know what they're going to do.
No, I think that's probably why they're in trouble now.
So it's a hard team to predict, but we'll soon find out. Middlesbrough, again, nothing this week. If we are wrong, feel free to slay us in the comments. But we've done a few hours of research looking for all these teams, and this is what we think is the stuff that's happened since we last recorded, which was the 8th of July. And so it's only a week sample, so it's not just like we've not just skipped over 40 signings. It's just from this week.
If you have made a move, it can't have been that interesting.
Yeah, because we would have seen it. Yeah. So that's just the context for anyone we haven't spoken about. You haven't done anything, so yeah. Moving on to Millwall. So Zach Sturge from Chelsea on loan last season. and I believe that's the only one they've made. Obviously, made him permanent now. It looked like he came into the team more towards the back end of the season, sort of set as a depth option for the rest of it. But a fairly exciting signing, just to suppose, with the potential he could have. Still quite young, obviously.
Signing a young English left back is nearly always a good idea because there's not that many good left backs around. If you find a good one, you're pretty settled, and they tend to be worth a lot of money the way in the modern game. Like fullbacks have had like a explosion in price in the last few years. You get a good one for cheap, and if he does play 40 games this season, or he plays 40 games next season, and he's still under 25, you're looking at like a £5 million player realistically. So I like that gamble quite a lot.
It's just, as I said, it's English. So even if you're not necessarily brilliant, you're probably going to make at least your money back on him just from being English and young alone. So
and he fills a homegrown spot.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very risk-free sign, you have to think. Millwall will be an interesting one. Obviously, just missed out on the playoffs last season. I can't tell. Obviously, I think the standard will be a bit higher, especially around that playoff race this season. So I think, if you look next season compared to this season, I can't imagine that the playoff total that got you into 6th or 5th last year will be similar to this season. I think it'll be a lot higher. But
but then there's also like Leicester who are going to start with a points deduction. There's a couple of teams who I think are going to be worse. I think Sheffield Wednesday are almost certainly going to be worse.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they'll probably be top half again. It's just whether or not they finish in the playoffs is.
Yeah, I have them more towards that sort of mid-table but top half, so you're talking like 10th to 12th, just about where they seem to be every single season.
That's kind of their pocket, yeah.
They sort of sit there most seasons, and I can't imagine it'll change too much. They haven't really lost many players, and they haven't brought many in either. So I
signed the big striker, is it Coburn?
That was an interesting. We spoke about that last week. A lot of money it was.
He's a handful. He's very Millwall.
It is very Millwall, absolutely. Norwich, we will speak about, probably not for a reason that they want to speak about. Borja Sainz has finally, we spoke about it last week, but he finally completed the move to join Porto. About £13 million to add to their little transfer kitty. Obviously, we're signing that big striker from somewhere in Scandinavia. I can't remember where it was. Apologies. But
it was Denmark.
Denmark, there we go. I was going to say it, but I didn't want to get it wrong. So.
Yeah, no, it's Chris Garden. I was looking him up earlier.
Yeah, he looks very good, to be fair.
He does. His record in Denmark is insane.
They look like they're going in the right direction. Also, they got Harry Darling from Swansea as well. So they're going in the right direction, I think. Borja Sainz obviously was, did he end up winning top scorer or did Pereira overtake him at the end of the season? I'm not entirely sure. It wasn't the many goals, but...
I was watching League One last season.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I'll let you know.
It's...
But... Yeah, he started really well, then sort of had a bit of a rough patch as the season went on, got a bit, I don't know what happened. I think he was injured for a while, got suspended, didn't he, for a while because of something. So it was an interesting one, but 13 million, you can't complain too much getting that kind of money for him to go play in Europe. It was a no-brainer for him as well. I think Sargent might leave, but obviously that adds a lot of money to a transfer pot to spend for the rest of this summer. So I think it'll be an intriguing team to see because they always seem to be tutored to be 3rd, 6th, and they always end up finishing about 12th. So
yeah, Norwich are a baffling team. I don't know how they consistently have they Sainz and Sargent last season and didn't finish. Didn't do that well. So how have you even managed that? You've got two players here worth probably 30 million combined.
It is impressive considering with the level of players they seem to have every season, but maybe this season will be different. We'll soon find out. Moving on to Oxford United and one signing for them, which I actually quite like. Obviously, you would have seen this guy last year playing in League One, Brodie Spencer, a shirt from Huddersfield, and it sort of came out of nowhere, I think. I don't think anyone knew about it until he popped up in an Oxford shirt. But for me, I don't know about you, obviously, you would know a bit more about him than me, obviously, seeing him play at least twice last season. Looks like a very good sort of talent to bring across.
He was one of the better defenders in the division. He can play in all sorts of different positions as well. He's not the biggest, which if you're going to play him in a 2 can be exploited, especially with how many teams, we'll get onto it in a bit, how many teams seem to be signing big strikers. But he, as a wide centre-back, I'm not sure exactly how Oxford play. Rowett used to be a real 4-2-3-1 guy everywhere he went. So I assume he probably still subscribes to that doctrine. But Spencer he's young, he's versatile, he's just a good footballer. Like he doesn't have a lot of like weaknesses other than to say he's a little short for a centre back, but you can play him elsewhere. You can play him in a 3, you can play him at full back. Like he's just a good player. Good player to have in the squad because he can fill in multiple roles as well.
Yeah, I mean, I watched him. He played sort of back end before Huddersfield got relegated as well, and he just looks like he's been great for them, getting better every season as it went on. But to me, yeah, as I said, it's just a good option for Oxford to bring across, and you've got to sign smart in your club like that because you don't have the money to be able to go out and sign proven or like massively proven players anyway. Although we did think that until they spent, I believe it was about £4 million on Keersmacher, who was supposed to go to Blackburn. So that it's an interesting one to see where their money's coming from because they don't scream that they've got massively rich owners. But again, it's just a team that they did well last season, considering everyone, including me as well, had written them off as a team that was going straight back down. Stayed in the league, so now I suppose it's consolidation for them. Just make sure you continue to stay in the league, and it looks like Spencer's a fairly good step towards doing so for them.
Yeah. I think it's just a good signing for the future. It's a good signing for now. It's just. Makes a lot of sense, I think, for a club like Oxford.
So Portsmouth up next, and a player which everyone in the EFL will know about because he's been around for quite a while. John Swift has signed from a free agency. Obviously, was at West Brom for a couple of seasons after joining from Reading. Has joined Portsmouth as their only signing this week, and you have to feel like, as much as he may not have been up to the standard that he was maybe in his Reading days or even his early West Brom days, it's still a fairly decent signing for a club like Portsmouth in this division.
He's a very good footballer when he's fit. It's just that when he's fit has been such a sticking point. If he had stayed fit for more of his career, with all due respect, he wouldn't be at Portsmouth. And that sounds disrespectful, but he would, he was like a top end Championship player. He was like, could have maybe played in the Premier League at one point if he'd just stayed fit, but he just couldn't. And unfortunately, it's to Portsmouth's gain because it's on his day, he's an absolutely delightful footballer. Really is a lovely footballer to watch.
Yeah, I agree. As I said, when he was at Reading, everyone's like, this guy could end up playing the Premier League or even, the very top of the Championship. And it never seemed to really work out for him at West Brom. Obviously, he said injuries played a large part in that, not helping. But I don't know how old he is right now, but I believe he's in his 30s now. So it's sort of make it or break it year for him in his career, you'd have to think. And
that's it. It's like this is probably his last. No, I think he'll probably stick around in the Championship until he's like 35. Like a player like that with his technical ability, you never lose that. Like he despite the name, he's never been that reliant on his speed and his physicality. He is just a lovely footballer. He'll probably in 4 years just become a central midfielder, defensive. Like he'll drop deeper and he'll just use that range of passing. Like he's a lovely footballer. It's just unfortunately he can't stay fit, and it's a boon for Portsmouth, but it's a shame for Swift.
Yeah, as you said, it's exciting that you make as Portsmouth, as you've just gone for an experienced head who can come in for a team again that you'd think will be towards the bottom end of the league and just keep them in this division basically. And if he does stay fit, I've got a feeling he would play a massive part in keeping them away from the relegation danger because especially as well, I think with the teams coming up being of a much higher quality than normal, it's going to be intriguing to see how teams like Portsmouth, Oxford, etc. will fare with this quality of teams in next season when you haven't got the normal culprits. Obviously, last season was a similar situation, so it's getting harder now for these teams. Not just say the top 3 came up, they'll go straight back down. So it's a good signing.
I think that the teams coming up from League One, obviously as a Birmingham fan, I'm a bit biased, but I think the teams coming up from League One are strong this year. Wrexham are a nightmare to play against. I do think Wrexham will struggle, but they are difficult to play against. They're so physical.
Phil Parkinson ball, isn't it?
Yeah, they are. They're not a pretty team to watch, but they're difficult to play against. Charlton, Nathan Jones, for all his faults, is a genuinely good manager, and they seem to be making some clever moves. And I think Charlton will probably be okay, to be honest. They were one of the few teams who genuinely outplayed us last season. Away from at their place, so I think they'll be okay.
Definitely. Next, again, a little run of teams where nothing's happened. Preston, QPR and Sheffield United. Again, please do correct us in the comments if we are wrong, but none of them three have done anything this week according to what we've researched in about 4 hours. So apologies if we're wrong, but if it was, it probably wasn't that noticeable anyway. So yeah, again, there's some that I've seen on here that were like such minor outgoings, so I haven't even brought them up.
Yeah.
So we've just done the ones that are worth talking about. Right? If you've lost like a fourth string defender who's gone to League One or League Two, it probably doesn't make a difference. So yeah. Next up, a team who we said last week hadn't done anything in the transfer market because of their dire financial issues. Sheffield Wednesday have done something this time, but I've got a feeling it's not one they're going to be happy about because Gassama has joined Rangers for about £2.5 million after, I believe, Chansiri chose to pay him to make sure he could stay under contract so they could sell him on for money to be able to pay off their debt.
Yeah, I think that's correct. He's a lovely player who Sheffield Wednesday would absolutely not want to have sold and wouldn't have done under normal circumstances. And somebody's got a bargain there. I think it's Rangers, right?
Yeah, Rangers £2.5 million, and I think even if you got him for that or for free, it's still a bargain either way for a player like that. I think if you ask most Championship clubs, they probably would have taken him if they had the opportunity. Obviously, decided to go to Rangers to join the Russell Martin project over there in Scotland, but they seem to be doing that quite a lot this year. Obviously, with Martin knowing that league quite well, he was bringing Asgard's gone over as well.
They missed out on Poku, so I think this is their replacement.
Yeah. Again, it's a serviceable replacement, absolutely, to not have Poku, get Gassama instead. It's a great sign for Rangers. But
absolutely, yeah.
For Wednesday, it's pretty dire with Windass. I believe he won. I saw earlier he won his dispute over his handing in his notice, so he's now a free agent as well.
Yeah.
And Barry Bannon, similar situation, also a free agent, start the club and still looks like he wants to stay at the club, but they've got to pay him. So
that's the kicker. Yeah, they're going to lose a lot of players this summer. I don't envy them whatsoever. We've been there. It's not nice. Oh. Are you back?
We're back.
There we go. Cut out then.
Note that down in the timestamp.
Yeah.
Don't know what happened there. It's 27, whatever it was. Right. And then just note that when we've gone back to speaking, which I will start now.
Yeah. Southampton next one.
So, yeah. So, moving on, after Sheffield Wednesday, who probably not the club they want to hear about. So next up, we have Southampton, and as you said about big strikers for other clubs, we've got a fairly big striker in again. For this one, let's give an exciting talent, Damien Downs, for about £8 million, joining from Cologne, obviously US international now. Looks to be £8 million, obviously in this league now for what looks to be a fairly good striker. Doesn't look like a bad deal at all, does it?
I love this move. He's like when you look at him, he just looks like a lovely footballer. He's tall, he's strong, he carries the ball well, and then like you look at his scoring record backs it up. He's played off the left, he's played off the right, he's played up front with his back to goal, he's played with his facing goal off the left, dribbling in. He just looks like he doesn't look like he has any big holes in his game, and he really reminds me of that sort of, obviously not at the same level, but that like Isaac Ekitike, like that style of striker where they're tall and they're not super strong, but they're strong enough that anyone who can keep up with them stride for stride is not going to be as strong, and they carry the ball really well for players that size. He just looks like a slam dunk, this one. Like his numbers are good. He looks good on like, obviously the highlights, but he looks good on film. He's got the physical profile of a player who can play here. He's versatile. It just looks like a good gamble to me. I like the move a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it. Obviously, I saw the rumours before it happened. I didn't actually think they'd be able to do a signing like that because he is a fairly sought-after footballer and he looked really good. And, obviously, to be a US international already, it's impressive, obviously, at such a young age as well. But as you said...
you mean?
Yeah, that's another story. This guy actually looked good when I watched him. Aguiman, on the other hand, I'm not sure about that one. I feel like this is what some Derby fans will hope Aguiman was. and he isn't going to be that. But no, Downs he just looks brilliant, as you said. He just seems to have every capable physical attribute that you need to be a good striker at any level, really. And he's only going to get better than what he is already at obviously such a young age. So for me, it could be one of the signings of the summer if it pans out the way they expect it to, and I think it probably will. I'd be very shocked if this ends up being a miss on the signing with how good he's been so far.
You'd imagine they'll go up as well, Southampton. So like the 8 million outlay is just not that big to them. They can afford to take a gamble like this for a guy who, if he does pop, if he does go off, like you're looking at a lot of money for him.
100%. Moving on to signing from a club that you wouldn't really think has any resale value in it. We'll go to Stoke City next up, and it was Aaron Cresswell who joins on a free. Obviously, his contract expired at West Ham after being there for a number of years. Obviously, one of a little cult hero in West Ham. Obviously, won the Conference League and has now finally left. And he looks really weird seeing him in another team shirt. I'm not sure about you, but as far as Stoke goes, he's a very experienced Premier League experienced left back to come in and play a good role. You might get 25, 30 games out of him, but even that surely looks like to be a fairly risk-free, high reward signing.
He's a good player, Cresswell. Like he's like obviously at his peak, he's obviously better than mid-table Championship. I'll be kind. Upper mid-table Championship. I'll be kind. Why not? Like he's obviously better than that, but he is coming to the end of his career. I think he's had some injury issues as well.
Yeah.
And like this is very much a short-term deal. I do sometimes wonder, like, what's the point in a short-term deal when you're like, what are Stoke's ambitions this year? I don't think they're going to go down, and I don't think they're going to go up. So it's like you're just going to have to sign another left back next season. I don't love it. That's kind of like it's a really short-term deal.
Yeah, I do see your point in sort of like what's the thinking, like because you don't think they're going to be a team that's battling down the bottom, and you don't have the squad probably capable of needing an experienced player like Cresswell to carry you over the line at the top of the table. But I suppose he was still good when he was fit for West Ham in recent years.
He's very good.
It's just when he was fit is the key part of it. And, coming to the end of his career now, you sort of feel like it's one last hurrah in a lower league to see if he can, reignite a spark into a team. But as I said, as long as you get 25, 30 games out of him this season, it's probably worth just bringing him in just for an option to have. He's not a bad player to have in your day.
Oh, absolutely.
In this league, you've got to rotate around like no tomorrow because of the stupid amount of games they've got to play. So, as I said, if he can stay fit, it's a solid option just to have in their team, really, just to have to rotate around.
He's a very good footballer. That's very much not my problem. Is not in him as a footballer. It's that
of course.
It's just it's like, what's the future plan there? I mean, there is one, but he's a lovely player. It's just just the way I am.
No, it's absolutely fair enough. I can't disagree with what you said either. I think that's just how they've looked at it. I think they feel like that's their justification for bringing him in. Yeah. Obviously, Lyndon Gooch was the other bit of transfer news out of Stoke. He signed for Huddersfield. So he was a fullback as well, so you've got to bring that into mind when you sign someone like Cresswell. Not a natural fullback, Gooch, of course. So I think he played on the wing for a fair whack of his career.
Yeah, so I actually watched Gooch. I went to uni in Sunderland. Really aging myself here. So I watched him as when he was in there under 21s, and he was like an inside forward off the left, if I remember rightly. And then I saw the other day, defender Lyndon Gooch gets to Stoke, and that seems really odd.
Yeah, I think it was a recent
like a wing-back winger, right?
Yeah, definitely. But again, for Huddersfield, it's just their Brody Spencer replacement. You like to think straight in, straight out for them. But for Stoke, probably not one you're going to notice all too much. He wasn't setting the world alight. I still think he's a good player. I still don't know if he's better than League One. I think he could be, but not much. He's sort of that high-end League One, bottom-end Championship level player. He's fine
as a squad player. The Championship, he's fine as a good player. Like the Huddersfield should be like top end of League One. He should be good enough for that.
Absolutely. I would skip over Swansea as being my club. I don't like doing it. We have made a sign, and it was bringing Snoop Dogg on as a co-owner.
I saw that. Yeah,
I got announced today. They have recorded literally about an hour before we started recording. We announced that he's joined the board as a co-owner. So we've got Luka Modric and Snoop Dogg now, which is I feel like if you told anyone that 2 years ago, they would have been like, "What on earth are you talking about?"
What do they talk about, them two? What do you think? There's no way Snoop Dogg and Luka Modric could have a conversation. They have nothing in common. Yeah,
I just
exactly.
love to know with both of them really, but especially Snoop Dogg, is that how on earth it's come about that he's going to invest in Swansea. See, when Modric, I was just like, how has that come up in conversation, and how on earth have they said, yeah, we'll do that?
There's some strange ones. Like Shaquille O'Neal is like a part investor in Northampton, if I remember rightly. Like there's some really
There
weird
is
ones.
some really weird ones around the Championship. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously Wrexham have got God knows who. Same with Birmingham with Tom Brady.
yeah.
There's some weird, since I feel like Ryan Reynolds and Rob Aquilani started a big movement in English football, and it's just getting more and more ridiculous by the day as we've literally announced our kit with Snoop Dogg in it. So it's an interesting one, isn't it?
That is great.
Uh,
That is just fantastic.
it's brilliant, isn't it? So our last club that we'll talk about in a lot of detail is Watford, and they've been, I believe, the busiest of the clubs so far this week, with 2 signings done, one who's been interviewed in Heathrow Airport and completed his medical apparently. So we're going to talk about him now, and then one out the door. But we'll start off with, and again, pronunciations could be terrible. Luca Kieramgard is what I'm going to go with.
Kieran, I believe it's.
So it's from Udinese, but had just signed for them and been loaned straight to Watford, I believe, from OB in Denmark, coming off a season where he scored 22 goals with 5 assists in that league. Obviously, a standard which we're not entirely sure how good it is, but a young striker with a good goal record, you can't seemingly. It looks like quite an exciting signing on paper.
So when I first looked, I went and looked at his numbers and I watched some videos of him, and I was like, okay. And then I realized that he was in the 2nd division in Denmark. It's not that it wasn't the top division. It was the top division in Denmark. I was like, look, this is a great deal. Like his numbers were absolutely bonkers, and I was like, oh, that's because he's in the 2nd division of Denmark. And when you watch like some of the goals he scored, it's like these defenders they're like statues. They just don't move. Like he is huge. Like he's really big. He moves quite well. He's not slow, but he's a little like. Do you remember on like the old FIFAs when you only move like 8 directions? He's a little stiff. But he strikes the ball like when you look at his goals, like, he strikes the ball so well. Like, he strikes it so cleanly. I'm just worried maybe his touch will be a little loose, but physically he looks like he's not going to struggle with English football physically. He's big guy. He looked pretty 2-footed, but did favour his left. He's a great goal scoring record, but at a standard I'm certainly not confident saying is comparable to the Championship. And when you look at like Norwich signing, is it Kvistgaard? And it's like he had similar numbers in the division above, and then Watford signing this guy is like had those sort of numbers in the league below. You're like, I still quite like it as a move. I think it's interesting. I think he's raw, but there's definitely a player there. He knows what the goal is, and physically, you find players who can physically cope with the Championship. That's half the battle right there. It's just the Danish 2nd division does not tell you a whole lot. That's my problem.
No, I agree. As I said, there has to be something there for Udinese to go, yeah, we're going to sign you. Obviously, the move to Watford is probably inevitable. Obviously, with the whole Pozzo family dual ownership of the clubs, we've seen it with so many players, with Watford's best ones seemingly going their way and Udinese's worst ones going more towards Watford. But he looks good, as you said. It's just hard to tell because it's a standard where I personally don't know anything about the Danish 2nd division and what the standard is like. I can't imagine it's all too exciting. But 22 goals is 22 goals. You can only score against teams that will play against what's in front of you. So he's done well. Udinese saw it, and now he's gone to Watford. So it could be really good, could be terrible. We'll soon find out. So we're mostly signings, but it's high risk, high reward, I'd imagine, and it's only on loan anyway. So worst case scenario, if he's terrible, he just goes back to Udinese, and it's their problem.
Goes back, yeah, exactly.
Next one for them was Athene Marma from Montpellier. £1.3 million rumoured fee for him. Another young talent winger, only 19 years of age, coming from what is a fairly established league, and he just does look quite good. Watford just seem to be going for it in this transfer window, you'd think.
He hasn't played a whole lot of football.
No.
So they've seen something they like, and he's played like 1,000 minutes. I think it's really not a lot. I don't think he's ever played a full 90
No, I saw that. I don't think he's actually
senior level. Yeah. And it's like I'm sure he's exciting, and they pretty much said they signed him. We're expecting to loan him out, but he's been so good in training that they're going to keep him around the first team. which is always an exciting thing to hear as a fan when you sign a young player and it's like, oh yeah, no, he's so good in training, we're going to keep him and let him play.
You think, 1.3 million, as I said, he hasn't played an all too lot in his career at all, really, but he is only 19, so you wouldn't have expected him to play that much. But the fact he's got minutes at all in Liga is probably a good sign. As I said, if he's been that impressive in training, to keep him around, then he's going to be after at least a good squad player to have in the run-in for what is a tough league to play in. But as I said, the only issue with these young players who are quite small and tricky is obviously it's such a physical league, and obviously when you're playing in the French, whatever, I don't know if he's gone on loan, but if you're playing in France as well, it's not the most physical of leagues. So,
I disagree. I think France actually is quite physical.
I think it can be, but
yeah, well, there's a lot of players who come from France who you're like, oh, these are like physical, like
true.
Human, and
there's also quite a few who are like tiny. I've seen so
but they tend to be the ones who can play against it. Like the small ones who come out of France tend to be good because they have to play. Like Ryan Cherky had to play against all these brutes.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's interesting. I think, as you said, it's not much money spent on it. He's young.
Yeah, makes sense.
It looks like it's only going to be a good thing for them. So we will soon find out with a lot of these players. But so yeah, because obviously as Championship fans, League One fans, we can't say we watch backup players in Montpellier all too often. So we're not going to sit here and pretend like we know absolutely loads about them. But we've done enough research to sort of realise that he looks good, and he's obviously impressed in the short amount of time he's been at Watford to be able to stick around. So
it's a very Watford deal, isn't it? It's the sort of player Watford sign all the time.
Absolutely, and they've
no idea who they are.
Done it again with someone who's been made out to be what could be one of the best signings of the entire window. That's why Anthony Joseph said he thinks it's the best signing so far this summer in the entire league. Nest is not done yet, but as I said, he's been interviewed in Heathrow Airport about the move, and it got reported today he's completed his medical. So we'll speak about it as if it is done. It looks like it's going to be done in the next couple of days. Nestori Iran Kunda from Bayern Munich for £2.5 million, coming, as I said, what seems to be extremely highly rated. There's huge potential there, isn't there? For us, and again, for 2.5 million, you can't be too angry at it, regardless of what happens.
Yeah, he looked so. From what I looked at, he looked pretty. For a teenager, he was very good in Australia. He's played football. He was on loan in Switzerland last year, where he played a little bit of football. Didn't really stand out, but he's still like 19. Still, he travelled halfway across the world to Germany. He's looked good in Bayern Munich's youth team. They were excited about him, which begs the question: why they sold him for $3 million? Is it do they know something? Is there something going on there? Do they have a buyback clause? Maybe they've got a buyback clause as well.
They've got this is what Fabrizio Romano said: a 50% sell on and a buyback clause. So for them, even if they sell it for a lot of money, they're getting half of it anyway. And if he is really good, they can just buy him back.
Okay, so that makes more sense.
Makes a bit more sense in that sense, because I was a bit confused, but then seeing that part of the deal, I was like, okay, now they've sort of said we'll let you go to see if you develop. Worst case scenario, you don't. We got $3 million for you. Brilliant. Yeah. Best case, you do. Come back. We'll buy you back. Happy days. So, I mean, I said, I just, people are raving about him. I said, it reminds me of the time when Gran Qual came over. Hasn't really clicked for him ever since he did, but that sort of hype around a player, we haven't seen a similar sort of story with Iran Kunda. So it'll be intriguing. Watford will be an interesting team to watch. There's a lot of young, raw talent in that team where if they can have a manager that lasts more than 5 minutes to get a hold of it, then they might be all right. I can't say I know all too much about their new manager, but as I said, obviously Cleverley was, in my opinion, I wouldn't have sacked Cleverley in the first place, but they did. And so it'll be intriguing to see how long this manager actually lasts. But
I've given up trying to make sense of what the managerial decisions a long time ago.
Just decisions in general, really.
Just let it happen.
It seems like natural cause at this point. If you're taking that job, you're not going to be there for very long unless you're winning the league. And even then, you're probably still not safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And their one departure was a Polish league record signing for Mileta Rajovic to join Legia Warsaw for $3 million. And to me, I feel like they've done really, really well to get £3 million out of Rajovic, because he hasn't shown all too much since he joined Watford. Also, he was on loan last season. Looked better, but in a league that is a lower standard than the Championship, you like to think. So $3 million, you have to think he's done pretty well there.
that was kind of my take. I mean, I can see why he's gone for 3 million. He's got 14. He's 14 goals in the Championship. Like, his record in the Championship isn't terrible, and he's a big guy, big physical player. He's not a bad footballer at all, and like, he has that experience at the Championship level, and he's played in the top division in Denmark and wherever else. It's like, but I thought if he was going to go for 3 million, I didn't think it would be to Poland. Like you say, he's a record transfer for that league, which is, I think he would smash it in Poland, but like, you'd hope so.
You'd hope so if you're breaking the league record fee for him, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he should be really good in that league. I mean,
I just think
it's not the strongest league.
You just said it. It's just, for them, it's probably good for both parties. We'll get 3 million pound for a player they don't want around, and Legia Warsaw get a player who looks like he's going to be half. He looks like one of them players can be brilliant in these sort of niche leagues around Europe, but will never make it in the English system, which is absolutely fine. There's so many strikers that come across highly rated from these sort of leagues, and then just aren't quite made out for English football, and they go off their merry way and have a great career elsewhere.
He wasn't that bad in the Championship either.
No, he was fine.
He wasn't awful. He wasn't.
No, he was fine. It was just not quite to the level you probably want. It's one of them players. It looks like if you just looked just on the stats, think, oh, he's all right, but then you actually watch him, and it's a bit more like half of them goals are probably just easy, quick finishes for him in the right place at the right time. Which is what you have to be at this level, I suppose. But if Watford, 3 million pounds for a player you're not entirely bothered about, you can't really say no to that, can you?
You'd hope you could do better. It's just, I don't want it to be like, oh yeah, no, he's crap, get rid of him.
Of course not.
He did all right. He's
fine. And our last two clubs of the video, so we have West Brom and Wrexham, who haven't actually signed anyone, but I will touch on Wrexham quickly because they are close signing for a club record fee, I do believe. Empoli left back Liberato Karachi or Karsak, I don't know how to say it. Either way.
Oh, I saw it earlier. I can't remember exactly how
Kakai, however Cacace. So however you want to pronounce it, I am terrible with these sort of names. I don't know. There is. I did try and look it up, but I was getting different answers from everywhere. So I do apologise, Wrexham fans, because they'll probably be at my head now like Birmingham fans were last week. But
it would be if there were any.
I'm not saying a word on that. Especially the Swansea fan, I will just not even bother. It looks like, I looked into him a bit, and he looks like a fairly good signing. So, if they're breaking the club record fee, so it's got to be decent. And it looks like I said in the last episode, it's a team that needs to spend quite a fair bit more money if they're going to be competing where they want to compete next season. Because on paper, to me, that squad isn't quite near the. I'd say it's probably about mid-table at the absolute peak for that squad at the minute, and I think even that's pushing it quite a bit.
So. I maybe a bit of an out there take. I think Charlton might do better than them this season. I think Wrexham will really struggle with the style because they bullied teams in League One with their physicality, with their they're just more powerful. They were a little bit quicker and they were a little bit more aggressive. The way they play, I just don't think it's going to work against. They come up against Millwall. You're not going to be more aggressive than them. Like you're not going to be bigger than like some of these Championship players. You're not going to be able to run past some of them. Like they were very basic as a football team when I watched them last year, and I kind of think they're going to struggle. But as you say, if they make signings to change that style, they make. Or they just sign better players to play it, they might be all right. This guy's got a brilliant name. I don't know much about him, but Liberato, I think it's Kakachi or Kakachi or something. It's a brilliant name. Liberato as a first name, amazing. I'd sign.
You're probably closer to me than pronouncing it correctly. I did try and look it up. I just, for the life of me, I had about 3 different answers, and I thought I'm just going to go wing it with that one, but because it's not even happened yet. But it looks like it will. But for me, they just need to spend a fair bit more money because that squad. And again, my worry with Phil Parkinson is he's never been great in the higher levels, and I think obviously he looks good at the minute. But with that squad in League One, you'd like to think he would be great. You can't really complain with some of the players for that. For League One, they were brilliant. For the Championship, I'm not sure. It's a lot of players we've seen have been in the Championship and struggled and had to drop down to look a bit better. So for me, it needs work. They can get there, but it's going to be a lot of money spent, as Birmingham have done as well. you just did it last season, so you were ready to go when you come out this season. Whereas that's what they're going to try and do.
We've still got a lot of money to spend. I think we're going to sign 3 or 4 more, and I think we're going to spend a lot of money on them. Honestly,
I wouldn't be shocked at all. And then maybe, as I said, I did say last week that I don't think you're quite there yet, but you're not far off. Again, that seems to anger people. But
our owner said at the end of last season, somebody asked him if he was planning on breaking the Championship, spending like the transfer record as a joke, and he said, hopefully. Like he was like, yeah, we'll look into it. Like if you find the right player, like he was sort of like quite serious about it. But that's
fair enough.
Yeah.
How the other half of ownership fans live. We just get Snoop Dogg and Luka Modric instead.
We had some pretty bad owners for the past
10, fair enough.
20 years.
Fair enough. But that is it from us for as far as your Championship roundup for this week. So that is all the signings that happened in the last sort of 8 or 9 days. Also recorded last week on the Tuesday, so it's just everything that happened since then. So as I said, if we did miss anything, do apologise. We did look into it quite a lot and we couldn't find anything else. If we did, it was probably something quite minor anyway. So fingers crossed we haven't missed anything. But if we did, let us know in the comments, and also let us know who you think's been your club's best signing so far this season. But thank you to Elliott for joining me this week, and we will see you all next week.